Good evening and warm welcome to all the participants. We are going to begin our session number 225 and we are joined by Mr. Nitesh Reddy. Welcome, Mr. Nitesh Reddy, for this session.
Thank you, Mr. Sudhakar. Thank you so much for having me around.
Thank you for joining. What we'll do is I'll have a brief introduction and then invite you to deliver your opening remarks. Allow me to share my screen, please. So these are WiseViews leadership conversations, which we hold every Friday, typically at 6:30 p.m. And we are at 225th session, and this will be headed by Mr. Nitesh Reddy. And we are going to talk about building scalable digital products, lessons from the procurement technology space. This is a very different topic, and quite curious are many people to understand and learn from it. So this intro and the talk by Mr. Nitish Reddy will be for about 20 minutes. After that, we'll have 40 minutes of Q&A. So I take pleasure in introducing Mr. Nitish Reddy, the founder and CEO of PRM 360. A large number of people who are aware of this space will be knowing Mr. Reddy, but let me introduce. He is an enterprise-grade procure-to-pay SaaS platform, that is PRM 360, which is built to simplify and transform complex procurement operations for mid-sized and large organizations globally. Under Mr. Nitish Reddy's leadership, PRM 360 has evolved into a highly trusted and recognized procurement solution, enabling enterprises to streamline sourcing, negotiations, approvals, and purchasing while driving measurable cost savings and superior user experience. With a strong belief in customer-first innovation, Mr. Reddy has consistently focused on solving core procurement challenges through practical, scalable tech. Prior to founding PRM 360, he worked with leading global organizations such as JDS Software, Bancam, and Broadridge Financial Solutions, gaining deep exposure to enterprise systems, financial processes, and large-scale digital transformations. Driven by his philosophy that innovation is not about doing things differently, but about making things more convenient and effective, he founded ACADS 360 India Private Limited, under which PRM 360 was launched in November 2016 and supported by a team of young and passionate innovators. In a relatively short span, PRM 360 has established itself as a strong brand in the procurement technology space. PRM 360 has received global recognition for product excellence and customer impact, being named Gartner Peer Insights Customer's Choice consecutively for Procure to Pay suites. The platform has also earned multiple leadership badges and top performer recognitions from G2, reinforcing its position as a high performing, customer trusted solution in the global procurement market. Mr. Reddy's entrepreneurial journey has been widely recognized, acknowledged through several accolades, including a prestigious award from BRICS Business Forum under the Emerging Startup category in May 2018, New Delhi, and selection of ACADS 360 India Private Limited among Hyderabad's Hot 10 Startups by HYSIA in July 2018. He has been regularly being featured in various newspapers and business magazines, and he is quite well known in the space of technology and also entrepreneurship. Welcome, Mr. Nitesh. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak on WiseViews Leadership Conversations. I will introduce my esteemed colleague, Dr. Prasad. He is the Senior Director in Academic Wing at ICFAI Group. He brings 3 decades of rich experience to the table. He holds BTech from IIT Bombay and PGDM from IIM Kolkata. And I welcome Professor Prasad as well. Thank you so much. And we will be waiting to learn from you, Mr. Nitish Reddy. Kindly deliver your opening remarks. After this 20 minutes of the talk, we'll come back for the Q&A in 2 clusters. Over to you for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the warm introduction and welcome, Mr. Sudhakar. Pleasure is all mine. And firstly, thank you for having me around. It's really exciting to catch up with a lot of participants during the Q&A session. I look forward to you know face a lot of hard questions is what I'm thinking of. Okay. Right. To start with, very good evening, everyone. Now, when we talk about building digital products, right? Most of the decision or discussion revolves around technology, right? AI, cloud, or platforms. But in my experience, right, products don't fail because of bad technology. They fail because of leadership underestimates complexity while you're scaling up. Right, over the last several years, while building an enterprise procurement platform, I have learned that scalability is not about adding more users. It is about building discipline, trust, and systems, right? That work even when things go wrong. That's most important, right? Today, I would like to share a few, leadership lessons from the journey that I hope will be useful, no matter whatever field you choose or you are in, right? So to start with, let's quickly talk about why this topic matters, right? Of late, everybody are talking about scale up, right? Expansions, global expansion, global acquisitions. Now these words are you would definitely find it every day in a newspaper, right? Now, many digital products, right, fail despite good technology, right? Because it's not like only the products which are very good at tech are scaling up. It's not that. That's the biggest myth, which is currently there in the market right now. But for as per me, right, it's not about good technology, right? There is something way beyond, because if you see a lot of products are being launched every year, you have hundreds of thousands of products in the market, but very few have got that attention, global expansion scope, and scalability. Now what makes them different from others is what we'll be talking in course of this presentation. Now, failures are driven. Before we go into how do we make it successful, right? Let's talk about what lead to failure, because that is something which is of larger proportion compared to a successful scalable products or companies, right? Failures are driven by leadership and execution gaps, right? And enterprise products demand trust and discipline. It is not about how many features you have, what kind of problems you are solving, and all. It's all about bringing that consistency in delivering the promise all throughout and build that trust. That discipline and trust actually defines the whole scalable journey. And when you talk about procurement, right, it reflects real world complexity, because of late, when you see, right, like world, everything changes every day. It could be, if you go to the last, if you even consider Russia-Ukraine war, that has impact in supply chain. US sanctions have impact on supply chain. A strike in one place has a supply chain risk. So supply chain, probably before COVID, was a very consistent one, right? Like earlier in supply chain, people used to end up into engagements for a year-long contract for a lot of products. But now the contract duration, if you see it, has drastically gone down to 1 month or maximum to a quarter because of global disruptions all across the globe, right? Now let me start, right, before we go on to the next ones, right? Like what is a digital product, right? I'm sure I'll just quickly run this and then move on to the next one. Technology, it's nothing but a technology driven solution solving real problems, right? And it combines people, process, and platform. Success depends on adoption, not features, right? And then great products simplify complexity. Now this is about a digital product, right? So what actually digital product does is it basically brings all three, right? All three under that product, right? It's all about people, process, and technology. Now let's talk about scalability in a simpler terms, right? Ability to grow without breaking is one of the important aspect, right? Like if you have to grow, it doesn't mean you have to break down your product to simpler ones, or probably add more things. Diversifying your features is not the strategy to go about for scaling your product, right? More users does means more complexity. Now what happens, right? Typically most of the people think, right, because not all sizes fit everybody, right? Not one size fits all people. So a lot of people would have that misconception that solving one problem for one client doesn't mean we are ready for global expansion or scale. And process and decisions should also scale up. It's not just the product, right? Process and decisions should also scale up. And then pure scalability destroys the trust, right? See, if you're running behind scaling up, and if you're not really delivering the promise what is being committed, right, that obviously breaks the whole trust factor, which sticks a client to your product for longer time. And just to give you a simpler example of what actually we did, right? So just to give you, probably just quickly give you one example. So when we basically launched the product in 2017, the enterprise version, so we were able to solve problems of one pharma company. right? And we had few early wins, and we were able to handle 2, 3 clients from 2, 3 different verticals. And at that point of time, after delivering the solutions, we were overconfident that the solution what we are working on is absolutely ready for scaling up, right? But when we started actually going on getting enterprise client on board, that's when we realized enterprise sees the solution from a different perspective, and it needs a lot of the product has had to go through a lot of regression to come up with a standard outcome, right? So that led to a lot of escalations, and we had to quickly go back, start focusing on ground, and then start working on building fundamental structure to the product to see to it that the whole product goes in a systematic and consistent manner. So that's one of the takeaways which we always quote. We can't blindly assume, client requirement, right? Now, when we see it from enterprise product perspective, right, a bigger difference is, startup versus enterprise products is startup is all about speed and experimentation. So when you start, right, it's like you don't have a larger hierarchy, you don't go through a bigger approval chain and all, right? So it's like decisions are taken faster and implementation is also done faster. But when you see enterprise, right, enterprise are because see they have been proven that and they build their trust, right? So it's all about stability and governance for them. So the priorities of companies, priorities of the products do change, right? And then low tolerance for failure when you look at enterprise products, and leadership maturity is critical, right? So these things define or primarily bring difference between a startup and enterprise products. Now, why procurement is hard? Now, probably I'll be more keen to emphasize a little more on procurement aspects because that's something what we deal in day in day out. So it touches procurement is one vertical in organizations which touches all possible departments, right from finance, legal, operations. At times you have to work with capex team. So they're the one who basically interact with multiple stakeholders across the company, and they have direct impact on cost and compliance. Because see earlier procurement was seen as a cost center. So it's like most of the people earlier when we actually started in 2017 that time, so the moment we go and say we have a software for procurement teams, so people don't used to really appreciate. They used to say why they need software. For them they were not the value creators in the system. That was their consumption that point of time, because for them purchase guys are merely a person who is just buying something for them. So they never saw procurement team as in I would say profit center, right? For them it's always a cost center. One person is there only to buy, right? So people had a different view towards procurement, the procurement team primarily, right? And that's the reason why a lot of enterprise solutions like ERPs, like SAPs, Oracles also didn't work more in detail towards solving their real problems, because that business function itself was treated to be a little lower compared to other business verticals. And then errors can, when you see procurement, right? See, the principal KPIs of a procurement is buying right product at right. There are 5 R's we always say: right product, right time, right quality, right place, no, and right source. These all actually 5 deliver a right KPI of procurement, right? So reliability, everything. These all things are very important because they have to work with people to make sure that the reliability is always there. Whatever they procure, they procure as per what is being required, and and meeting the 5 R's is something which is a non-negotiable KPI for them. And then solve the right problem. One of the important things to look at it is, so to build a product, one of the important things is we have to solve the right problem. It's not like giving whatever we have. It's all about solving what they need, right? So delivering purpose or is something really important, right? So customers buy outcome, not software, right? And they don't really buy something like say one of our competitor bought this product, so let us basically try it out, take this product and see. That's not what they look at it, right? So they also have their own predefined expectations. So it's very important for us is to meet that outcomes too, right? Understand pain deeply. One of the important things, right, like how when we started this in 2017, that time internet was also very, it was not as accessible as that of how it is used to be right now, right? So when we go out to people and say, hey, we are coming with a procurement software where your vendors can log in and give quotations and all, the first thing they say is, So we already have an ERP. Why do we need to basically use your product to do it, right? Although we started taking that narrative strongly into the market, saying that, hey, the moment we meet procurement team, we say, you have been ignored all these years by large ERPs. They don't treat you as a strong function to be looked at. Now we have come here as your buddy, right? So we wanted to help you out in terms of solving those problems which larger ERPs couldn't solve. So we wanted to be your partner. We'll be your technical partner, solving your technological problems, solving your problems through technology, and we help you succeed in your role. Is the notion what we took forward to. So that basically garnered attention from the procurement space. People were more keen because the moment we started saying we are here and we're exclusively focused on procurement, they were more keen on sharing their problem statements. So they started sharing their problem statements, and then we have also started. See, we didn't build product with 100 or 1,000. We didn't take the product into the market with 100 features. We were very clean and we were very clear. So we took top 10 problem statements, which the procurement teams are struggling with, and we've started reaching out to the companies with solution with those 10 top problems. So that also garnered attention in the market, right? And most important thing is, we have to fall in love with their problem because we should have that obsession to solve their problem. That is how, that is what basically pushes us to build the product in the right direction, right? And then we have discipline over brilliance is the second lesson, what we have learned. So that first time, the first lesson, what we have learned was, is on the right problem, solving the right problem. Now, the second lesson, what we have learned is discipline over brilliance. So ideas are common, execution is rare, right? Like because of it, everybody will have ideas, but execution defines the whole success of that idea, right? So discipline builds predictability. One of the important things is, we have to build uh, continuously in the right direction. So the discipline actually builds the predictability, and consistency builds credibility. And basics done right scale best. So if you basically build a product without strong foundation, right? So when you actually look for scaling up, that will never give you a right outcome. Third lesson is about design for adoption, right? Usually unused, like say if you see from a product perspective, unused features create no value. Now, one of the important aspects is to always look at simplicity, right? Because what I always advocate to my team and the clients whomsoever I end up meeting, right? See, it's not about innovation is not about building things new, or you don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? Because people have been into the procurement space since decades. They have been following certain processes and all, right? So that made companies stand out in the market as a brand. But what we eventually end up saying is, hey, you do whatever you're doing. We'll help you in making it simple and effective so that you don't need to burn out the same amount of time, same amount of efforts, what you're actually currently burning it out, right? So with our product, we try to cut it down drastically by about 60% is what we always convey to our clients, right? And familiar workflows build confidence. Adoption is leadership driven because if you see from a so things, right? Like say in most of the organizations, always top-down approach works well, right? So adoption is something leader should drive. So it's not about enforcing, but it's something you have to basically educate people in terms of what kind of value propositions they can draw right with the product, and that motivation has to come from a leader to see that the product also goes off well, both from both the leaders, one from the client and the other from the product perspective, right? Like what we are building for, what ideally it is solving the problems and all. And then four is building systems, not heroes. So for any company, right, to scale up, very important aspect is to build systems. It should not be people driven. It should be process driven. The moment you have systems running it, right, like that enables products to grow, to scale at much faster pace, right? Hero culture doesn't scale, right? Systems enable repeatability so that the same thing can be done much better every time, right? And then empower teams to lead and distribute ownership. So we should have more people coming forward to take up the ownership and start working towards leading the product to the next frontier. And then technology and AI with purpose. So now everybody is talking about AI. At the moment you open up any conversation with any client, right? The first thing they ask is, hey, what do you have? What feature you have of AI in your product, right? So one of the important thing what we say is we have to use technology and AI with a purpose. Now, just building features for AI doesn't make sense. It's like we have to add features, leverage AI in improving decisions, in providing a better foresight about the purchase what you're doing, right? And then does not replace. See, the whole point which we always try to tell people is A does not replace judgment, right? It's all about it enables the leaders to take right decision. That's most important. And purpose driven tech class. So we always say, let's focus primarily on our purpose. Purpose is solving the problem. So if you start missing out, right? If you don't really take that as an important, criteria, right? We end up, losing the race pretty faster than what we might think of, right? And then a leadership story, right? Early failures, for me, reveal a lot of execution gaps, right? And then discipline is something what we focused on to build that trust again from customers, right? And then we have understood, okay, uh, it cannot be run, most importantly is with the people, right? With one single face, it should always be systems should actually be part of it, so that the consistency will be maintained, discipline will be maintained, and that basically builds the trust with our customers. And then probably the last one from me, most aspiring message to aspiring leaders is that, one of the important things to scale up products, irrespective of the domain to which you are actually catering to, right? Build fundamentals early so that you don't need to, change on it every time, because the foundation is important. And understand business realities. No, don't jump on and build products without going deeper in understanding the client problems. That's one of the important aspects, right? So if you only see things from a different perspective, understand certain piece of it, and then start hitting onto it, and working on building a product will never yield results. And then discipline matters more than any title, right? So it's like, who, whomsoever you might be, right? Eventually, discipline is something which will get you more respect, get you more value in the process. So leadership is a daily habit. One of the important thing to look at it. It's not like one time job or one time thing. Yeah. So key takeaways, as I was talking about, right? Scalability is a leadership challenge because the intent should be right from the top, right? And then technology is just an enabler. It's not the driving force, right? Because whatever people see, right, major 99.9% of your users, no matter whatever industry you belong to, right, they don't actually know what is their backend, what technology it is being built on, what is the architecture people use it. For them, is it solving their problem or not? That's the only criteria they evaluate and see, right? And consistency builds trust, most important, and scale with purpose, right? So these are the things which I thought I'll share it up with the team. So just to basically, close my note, right? Like, I wanted to share one important one of the thing is that, while we close, right, I wanted to leave with a simple thought. Leadership is not a title, as I mentioned, right? It's something that starts after promotion. Leadership begins the moment you take ownership, right? Ownership of outcomes, most important, right? Even when things are uncomfortable, uh, you know technology will keep changing, AI will get better, tools will become faster eventually, right? But what will always matter is discipline, consistency, and the courage to do the right things every day. So that defines the whole leadership, right? If you want to build products, teams, or even your own career at scale, focus less on brilliance and more on reliability. That is important, right? Because that takes you to a long way. And solve real problems, build trust, and remember, scalability is not a technology challenge, it's absolutely a leadership challenge, right? And thank you, and look forward, to your questions.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Mr. Reddy. Thank you so much. It is
Yeah.
too good to
Yes.
go away.
Thank you.
So the entire presentation that you have helped us understand the topic about is giving us three macros, out of which I'll try to point out two.
Right.
The first one is that very fundamental. Scalability is a leadership challenge. It's a leadership test actually, and it has got nothing great to do with the technology. It's just an enabler, but it has got everything to do with consistency, discipline, and eliciting trust. So some of the parameters that you have explained are going towards the existential philosophy of many organizations, which in a way I'm saying it's about branding. And if you can elicit trust, and if you can run operations with some kind of consistency in everything that you do in terms of your outcomes, in terms of your processes, and thereby bring in trust, that's a good brand. So consistency, scale, and branding seem to be in one level at that thought process. Thank you so much for that. Second is that when you have to put your head down and work on, focus on building the systems, building a systems approach, and not just build some heroes here and there. It is not about person oriented. It's about system oriented. It is also talking about understanding the pain points deeply about the persons that you're going to supply to. It could be internal, it could be external, both. And they have to solve these problems day in and day out. From being a mere vertical in various organizations, say 15, 20 years back, to what now it can be and what it could lead to in terms of fundamentally shaping the costs and the P&L of the organizations is very much evident now. So therefore, it is also a role for being intrapreneurial in your vertical when you're handling these things in your organization. That's the second macro. The third macro I'll come back to when we have time, and that's a little more far-fetched. I'm going to invoke Daniel Kahneman because your presentation is amazing. I will wait for the Q&A to be over and then I will bring that in. We have a large number of people who have joined this evening to listen to you. I want to thank all of them for sparing this time on a Friday evening so consistently, 225 times to be specific. So I want to thank them, and we'll start the Q&A. I'll now request Dr. Prasad to come in for the first cluster of questions. I'll come back for the second one, during which we will take questions directly also from the audience. May I request Dr. Prasad to start? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rao. Thank you, Mr. Reddy, for a wonderful presentation. Your presentation is important because you represent entrepreneurship. It is also important because you have started this after a good organizational stint, various organizations. So India needs that, a lot of that, lot more of that. And the other aspect of it is that you are talking about scalability. You're talking about scalability, and India needs scalability. So in all three directions, the what you're presenting makes a lot of practical, what I would say, sense, and should give us a lot of takeaways from an audience point of view, as well as from those who are going to listen to it later, because this recording will be available online and they can take a look at it later as well. So I'll start my questions accordingly. First is from, it's personal as well. You had experience. How did you zero in on procurement technology? Because this is also a leadership factor, the success factor. And how did you differentiate in the marketplace versus others who compete?
Got it. So just to add to it, right? Like I worked before starting this, I worked in corporate companies. So it has to do nothing with procurement. So let me, confess it first, right? So I was into tech. I was a developer, primarily focusing on mainframes, development and all. It has no relation or no correlation with procurement. But what actually ignited me towards looking at this or building this solution was like while I was actually working, right, in the corporate companies over weekends, I used to basically help my mom's company, which was into infrastructure. It used to help companies build data centers and all. So that led me, that gave me an opportunity to interact with both clients as well as vendors, right? So during that course of interactions, I could realize, I could see a lot of gaps in the whole ecosystem, right? It was not consistent. We had a lot of challenges there, right? Like there was no transparency as such. One of the important problems in procurement is lack of transparency. That led to too much of confusion, mistrust, and a lot of things. Building relation for a longer time with clients was always a Herculean task, right? So that pushed me towards, starting a product and focusing on it, right? But interesting fact is that before this product we launched one product called PTM 360, which was like, if you see the company's name is ACATS 360, it has to do nothing with procurement. So when we started the company, it was primarily focused on educational products. So that's why we thought we'll only give academic related products to the market. So we built PTM 360. We scaled up really well, and uh, and then during the course of time when we are building when we are building the store management solution for larger institutions, we realized, hey, the product what we are trying to focus on can be built as an independent product. So that's how the inception of the product PRM 360 has gone into, right? So in 2017, that's how we launched it.
Excellent. And in terms of positioning it, I mean, there must have been a journey from 2017 to now where you have come to a certain positioning vis-a-vis the
Yeah.
market. So could you respond to that?
See, one of the important thing, probably if you look at the earlier, earlier adoption, right? So we went out to clients. We said, hey, you have been using all ERPs, SAP, Microsoft, Oracle, all these you've been using, right? But if you see them, right, are they really solving your problem? So we started, asking them very bold questions, right? Is it solving your problem? How are you able to justify your work with your team, right, with your leadership, saying that, hey, we've been spending a lot of time doing this because if you see from a procurement user perspective, they spend a lot of time interacting with vendors, right? So there is a Deloitte, study which says, hey, purchaser usually spends close to about 8 to 9 calls at times per vendor to close an order eventually, right? So that's a major effort that goes into it. And every purchaser on an average has a KPI of handling 10 purchases per day, right? So that basically, increases the whole workload for them, and they have to go through juggle between a lot of things. It is not about ordering things, and they have to also ensure product gets delivered, right? So in the whole cycle, they end up making 70, 80 calls per day. So we went on, we said, hey, bro, we can give you 100 features, but let's not look at them for now. Okay, what is your major pain point? Your interaction with vendors of 70 to 80 per day, we will bring it down to zero. Start. So that's how we went on. We said, hey, we'll give you everything. We'll work towards improving your, business function for sure. But primary target is to immediately give you that breather on those things which you've been spending significant time. You focus on doing value driven activities. Let the product take care of doing monetary mundane tasks like follow-ups, sending up reminder emails and all. So those things we started placing it. And we also said, because that point of time when we started, right, the awareness towards digitization is close to zero. Hardly, not even top 1% were having that, were into digitization of procurement. More specifically, if I have to say it, right? But the moment we went and said, hey, system will automatically do this activity, they were amazed because they never thought about it. Because what happens, right, in procurement space, people were doing the same thing time and again for years together. So for them to think out of that loop was a Herculean task, right? So they never realized it. The moment we said that this tool is helping out in terms of doing follow-ups automatically, give you a statement of comparison and everything with just click of a button, that excited them the most. So it's like we had to do an educational sale. But how did we place ourselves well is we said build for India and build in India. So we were more, even before Make in India has been announced, right? We started taking this notion strongly with our clients. So that's how we got a good early adoption too. So and we traveled with them. We said, hey, we'll be your technology partner. Don't see it as a vendor, see it as a partner. You start throwing your problem statement to us, we'll start solving it. And that's how we evolved. Probably when we started, it was a 20, 30 feature product. Now we are about 2,400 plus feature product actually.
I think, a lot of takeaway there. I think, the point that you've described, how you described your value, of what value you're actually giving, that's a pretty unique. And you've gone in and, looked at what is actually taking place. And though there is SAP and other ERP, then you stood on top of that and then tried to find the problem with that. And then you created a solution. So that's unique. Second is, I think your scoping of your market for your adoption is also, for India, in India thing also seems to be something which you place a lot of importance on. So thank you very much for that. I move on to the next question. See, you have used AI-driven procurement automation for faster, smarter procurement lifecycle.
Right.
And you have mentioned a number of use cases from spend analysis to supplier risk management. Now, faster, I'm correlating it with the last session. So faster seems to be the cost saving, time saving kind of thing. Smarter seems to be the effective, value creation one.
Right.
So if you take, say, for example, supplier risk management, and if you have to drill it down for our better understanding of, the leadership lessons that you have articulated, what does faster and smarter mean for supplier risk management? A bit specific.
Sure. See, when we talk about supplier risk management, right, one of the important risk which procurement team always be watchful for is it's all about quality, efficiency of the vendor, and then delivery efficiency. These are the two important criteria that has to be looked at. Now, what we are doing is, see, our basically the product will look after the entire performance of the vendor. during the course of time, like how he is actually evolving, how his quality is actually moving on. Is it going down or going up, or is he consistently meeting the similar standards of quality? Is something we continuously monitor for. You don't need to do anything. System automatically calibrates it and start giving, okay, this guy is qualified as a class A vendor. You don't need to worry about this vendor when you give order to him, right? So that kind of classification is done faster and most importantly and effectively too. So while posting the, I'll tell you a simpler example. After GST has been introduced, right? So it's like, you get the input for what you buy, right? So we have started tracking the GST, filing consistency of the vendor too, right? So if he's doing it on time and all, we also say that, hey, this guy is compliant. He's doing all these things right on time. So we are giving more insights. So that enables, the procurement team to take right decision and can quickly evaluate the risk that might basically end up, you know, they're facing it with the vendor. So that's how we're mitigating it. And there are other risk capabilities, like for a product, you have only one vendor. So that's a risk, right? So tomorrow, if that vendor is not reachable or not available, so we don't end up getting them, right? Because we work predominantly with the manufacturing companies. So we have to always ensure that you have alternatives. So that also we give risk of blind spot. We usually call it as a blind spot analysis, talking about, what all people are at risk. And we in fact, add a layer on top of it. Like, we have identified a risk associated to vendor. Post that, you'll have a meeting with them, and we also track post meeting how was the whole improvement in terms of the risk capability perspective of the vendor. So that way we give insights to users.
Excellent. I think that has helped us understand this thing a bit more.
Right.
And I'll take it a bit further. You're also using AI,
Right.
and not just AI. What are the experiments, journeys, and checkpoints in your process, particularly with AI, before you decide to scale the business?
Right.
You can take one use case. You can take supplier risk and then discuss.
Right. See, I think one of the important factor, right? Like AI, now going a little more serious in the market right now, but up till last quarter, right? AI was a fancy word, right? People, wherever you go, you talk about it, right? Like, people are more keen. Like, say, people who don't even have an idea about AI, they used to ask us, what AI features do you have in the product? So it was more primarily used as a marketing trick than an actual solution, right? Because if you see from an procurement perspective, we don't have any model which is built for procurement, right? So that's, everything is general. That's why we call it generative. General models are available, which will give a general perspective, not a specific to a procurement, vertical perspective. That's why if you ask the same question to two times, right, you might get two different answers. So what we have did, right, like, we thought, okay, let's come up with basics. Let's start with basics and see what we can do. So first thing what we have started, leveraging is, we are now leveraging AI to source more new vendors to people. So what we do is we scout them online, find, who all are available in the same space, and then we started recommending to the clients. That's the first thing what we did. Now, second thing what happens, right, at the end of the procurement team acts as a facilitator between the end requester and the vendor. So they don't really, be using the products which they're buying, right? They have to basically buy for somebody else. So we have started giving them AI, enabler, where it tells what exactly this product is for and why they are trying to use it, and what actually value addition it adds to their organization. Now, third thing is, like, one of the important, I would say, functionality which procurement team does is evaluating quotations. We call it as quotation comparisons, right? See, for smaller one, it is fixed, right? For some verticals, it's a fixed criteria, right? Because they only go with the approved materials and all. But in general, right, if you look at, we call it as micro transactions, where it's like general procurement, like stationery and all those stuff, right? It is easy, straight case, right? But when you go to a complex one, like capital procurement, right? Capital expenses, you have to procure few things, few technical products, like in pharma more specifically, you'll call it as boilers. There are a lot of specific, complex machines which you have to buy, right? So one of the toughest challenge for them is to understand the technical specifications of each of these vendors and then evaluate which one is better. So what we did is, through AI, we've started giving score from AI perspective, saying AI score for this quotation is this much, and then AI score of this one is this much. So we are giving more insights to them to take more informed decision, even even in case of they not having any idea about or any clue about the product which they're actually trying to purchase. And other analytics, as I rightly said, see, probably to be really brutal and honest, right? Analytics, we don't, we also go to our clients and tell them very honestly saying, hey, what you're asking is not AI, it's an analytics. Because, it's easy to say that, hey, it's an AI driven thing, but eventually it's analytics. A lot of people don't even, are not in a state to differentiate between analytics and AI also. Right. It's like, that's the reason why till last quarter, probably now things are changing a little, but I'm not sure to what extent it might basically, evolve. But that is just used for a marketing, gimmicks, like to add few PPT slides to the sales deck to do two, three bold conversations with clients on AI. People are doing it, but there are some which are really making some meaningful, I would say, value additions to the product.
Fantastic. I think you've got some real life stuff, where, absolute niches, which, you've really gone into and, looked at, okay, these are the places where it's done. I'm sure your experience has also taught you lessons or where it works and where it doesn't work. So I now come to the next question. So as there is more autonomy and self-learning by the platform, what kind of accountability and governance do you have when you come to at scale? Are there any places where you decide that you will not scale as a complementary to that?
In terms of verticals we're talking about, I mean the regions in terms of
Yeah, I mean, if you take whatever you've used on AI, you would have done a number of initiatives,
right,
right?
right,
And you would have looked at scaling using that,
true,
right? So when you look at it, and you also understand that there's something that AI can do by itself, autonomy, self-learning, those kind of things.
right.
At a governance and accountability point of view, were there any encounters or decisions that you needed to make, and then
Uh,
decide differently?
Got it. See, there are always cases of exception, right? Because no matter how many SOPs you derive, because procurement teams follow SOPs very diligently because they have to deliver things on time, right? So they have stricter and stronger SOPs being built, right? So AI basically leverages that as a rule book to play around. Point one, but not in all cases that actually adds or that has to be followed. There are good number of exceptions where those SOPs or those things have to be bypassed. Like say if they need an urgent product to be delivered in production plant to start the production, right? So if you have to go through the whole process flow to initiate requisition till everything, right, it would take some time. So that lead to no stock case in the plant, and that disrupts the whole business function. So what actually A does, right? It's all about deriving decisions, considering different set of exceptions. In what case? So it's all about how does it actually take into situations into consideration. Like say criticality is one part of it. What is the impact it creates with this decision, right? If the impact is more onto the business, I would say business continuity, that always takes the front seat for sure, right? So when we basically work on giving an AI solution solve, right? We set certain rules very clearly saying this has to be follow this cycle. AI agent should take care of doing this stuff, but exceptions also we keep it open. So it's not like we blindly say no matter what you have to follow certain rule book. No, we also give an extra leeway to AI to look at the situation and what are the possible outcomes it might come up with, and which actually ensures that the whole purpose is being met. Even if it requires to break its own rule, it does it. But with the conscious, now we still have some manual interventions in between because till we get that maturity of the model right, right. Till then, humans do intervene, but it will give a proper recommendation and proper, insights to the people to take the right decisions.
Wonderful. I think the principles that you have brought off is, one is urgency to use it. Urgency is a principle. The other thing which you mentioned, I think, fall under the risk category, the criticality, the impact, and the business continuity aspects.
Right.
And you also added the purpose angle when you want to make better decisions, and the human element,
Absolutely.
which you're using to bring in accountability as well as improve the governance on what you're doing and when AI is involved.
True. True.
Many, many thanks. And I think at this stage, I'll hand it back to Professor Rao for the next cluster.
Thank you very much. That's a very good conversation going on. Mr. Nitish, I have one question. That is, what is one most counterintuitive decision that you have taken to make your platform scalable? I mean, we have talked about the principles, we have talked about the fundamental approaches, and we have understood the leadership principles also. But in your case, what is one seemingly counterintuitive decision that you had taken?
That's a good question. Probably I need to think about it. See, I see sometimes what happens, right? Same thing. The playbook, whatever you write to scale up, right? That looks good from outside. Principally, theoretically, you see everything is absolutely fine. We end up missing small nuances when you actually plan, right? You actually look things from. That's what I always say. We start seeing things from 10,000 feet high, but on ground we don't really realize, right? Okay, whether this actually makes sense or not, whether this work or not, right? So sometimes some decisions we have to keep it open in terms of going till deeper, seeing the ground reality, what is actually happening and what needs to be changed. We have to adopt to it. Now, one of the important thing, what I always say is change is something which is very constant. Now if you think, no, we don't change, this is how it should be, right? Everything gets changed eventually within no time, right? Now with AI, the kind of evolution that is happening, and every day something is happening in AI front, right? We have to catch up with it, we have to live with it. Now earlier, when we speak up, right, related to scale up roadmap, we used to talk about, a couple of years back, we used to talk about 3-year roadmap was
Yeah,
something what we were pushing everybody to look for, right? Now we are very clear. What we are saying is, hey, let's track roadmap month by month. Now, what you have it last month is getting changed in this month, because that's the level at which the pace at which the whole ecosystem is moving forward to, right? Like one of the solid example, right, is the recent launch of Anthropic Cloud, right? That shook the whole world up, right?
yeah,
So a lot of things are changing. So it's like, when you look at from a scalable perspective, uh, not just product, because one of the important factor which we missed, doing it is, when it comes to procurement, more specifically, geopolitical considerations are also plays a vital role in SEM. When you think everything goes on, right? One of the example, just to give you, right? We think, when we do this, everything is fine. But small things which basically changes is, just to give a simpler example on that note. When during COVID time, we were helping pharma companies in managing their procurement, right? So they had everything. It was worth of 80 crore. The size of procurement was worth of 80 crore. The only element which was missing was, like, say, if you see the capsule, you'll have the thin, cover wrapped in, right? You see capsules in that capsule cover, you have it, right? So they didn't had that cover available. So for this, for 80 crore procurement, the entire production was stopped because of just 1,40,000 rupee sheets. So what happens, right? Like we feel like, it might not have an impact to it, but for production, everything matters the most. So when you basically look at, scaling aspect for pharma, that, because not, as I told you, right, like different industries have different priorities, right? So we have to look at all those things, and we can't be so blunt in terms of deciding that, hey, what we have decided is the only right way to go about it. And it changes every day as well.
fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much. Uh, we will keep touching upon these insights from the practitioner that you are. Is very uh, very useful for all of us around the screen. I have one more question, which is a common ground between what you do and what we do. Okay. But then I'll request for your advice in this. We are in this day and age, dropping names like AI is a fashion statement, as you know. Um, so a lot of automation products are masquerading as AI products. As you mentioned, it increases its perceived sales value. Therefore, they say it's an AI product. Okay. From an it, so one example is that in a tech also there are a lot of automation products which remained probably unsold in the previous prior to COVID era, are now being masqueraded as AI products because with outcomes like it saves teaching time, it helps you manage the entire campus. These are predictably behavioral outcomes of your automation products. Okay. So for supposing I were to buy an AI product and call the bluff of AI washing, what are the things that I should keep in mind? Kindly help us.
See, one of the important things, right? The moment you start scouting for AI products to replace humans, right? Then I think you're not doing the right thing, right? See, one of the important aspect, see, for any company, even now people are saying, AI will replace everybody, right? But see, to an extent, it would do it. Not everybody, but to a good extent, the replacement are on cards. But it would take time, not just an year. It's a 2 3 year long story about it. But one of the important aspect is, human touch is something which is inevitable. You can't leave it, like especially in your industry, right? So that instructor-led trainings are more powerful and effective than an online training. That's how we've been, because instructor can see the face, understand the emotion of the students in terms of what they're moving towards, whether they're understanding things in a right way or not, and then add that personal touch to it, right? Because every student has their own pace of understanding and learning things, right? So that is something important. But when it comes to the product, what you have to look at it, right? One of the important purposes is content. See, AI you can leverage for content, because content actually is very important, and you don't need to scout and spend a lot of time doing it. See, content delivery is one part. Content is one part, right? Content delivery can be done by human or can be done by AI. But definitely you can leverage AI tools which has probably I would say trained models on content. See, buying AI tool is one part, but the model what it is using is important. See, you cannot use chat GPT for general thing. You can use it for general things, but not for specific things, because they're trained on certain data, right? So when you look at buying any AI tool, one of the foundational question which you have to ask them is what is the model they've used and how much accurate they are, right? That is very important, because asking question, getting answer is one part, but getting the same answer if you ask it n number of times is very important. Consistency is something which AI is always working towards and bringing that outcome, right? But it's still not 100% there. So we need a model for it. So when you look at it, content is the go, right? How do you deliver it? It's again like, say, you can probably I would say you can leverage AI for getting the content, getting the presentations or videos, whatever is required, but eventually the delivery of it, I would always say human has that better edge eventually, right?
Very good. I think that's a very good marker to go by for people who are procuring products in education, and that differentiation between AI versus, automation, mere automation products. I think
Right.
what you look for is driven by the purpose. Are you
Yeah.
trying to replace the human? And delivery can always be done by the people, whereas content can be very largely procured, or in the sense collected and curated by AI. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I was also curious in the beginning of the presentation when you were making, and this struck me, and I wanted to ask that question. That is, you have dealt with multiple sectors, because uh, the behavior of one sector and the requirements of one sector are probably very different from others. Even you have mentioned in your presentation, what works in this may not work for other organization also within the same sector sometimes. N is equal to one kind of focus we'll have to have. So, among various sectors that you've handled, building procurement for them, which sector is most challenging? Some of those things that we can understand, because there are people from multiple backgrounds that are around the screen. Maybe they can take a cue or two from what you're going to say.
That's a good question, because see, when you look at when we talk about procurement as say, right,
Hmm.
steps in the procurement are same across industries. You'll have a need, somebody raise the request for it, somebody buys, calls for quotation, gets the quotations, negotiate, close it, and then order it. You get the material, you pay it. So this structure is same all across industries. Now, what actually changes the most is industry to industry, nature of the product, complexity of evaluation. These are the only two things which differentiate industry to industry. Like, say, in pharma, right? They follow, like when you go for an R&D products, right? So they go through a rigor, right? Like they try to get a lot of products, experiment to understand which one actually suits them, and they have to go through FDA cycle to get it approved and all, right? When you see, because we work with 14 industries right now, right? So one of the important thing is complexity of procurement, lies with or probably solution is lies with the fundamental foundation. Like, say, if we the product, the same product we gave for pharma, same product we gave it for hospitals, the same product we gave it for e-commerce companies, same product we gave for plywood. So we have given it for different industries. The way we have mitigated the risk of variances by giving more configurability in the product. We gave more dynamic, I would say templates, because I was telling, right, the process flow is same. All that which differentiates industry to industry is the nature of the product, what exactly they're trying to procure. So to basically classify those products in a better way, we gave templatization. So we said, hey, if you're using raw materials, use this template where you can get more, because if you have to buy raw materials, you need to talk, or you need to use lingos like what is the grade, what is the purity and all. But when you buy laptop, you cannot ask them what is the grade and what is the quality, right? So purity, right? So each product has its own I would say specifications, and we have to safeguard them because that is important to qualify and decide, right? So what we did is we have introduced something called templates in the product, so that and they can classify the specifications and criterias, so that they don't really need to basically worry about the evaluation process. So that way we did it. So that's the reason why probably if you ask about what was most challenging was post order process, which is like delivery, because different industries have different standards. They say, hey, first send us some sample. We basically build a batch of it and check if this sample is good, then we'll give you an order for larger lot, right? So likewise, you have to do follow-ups on it and you have to evaluate, because at times vendor capacity plays a vital role. So if vendor is taking order beyond their capacity, that's a risk flag for us, right? So we have to look at those. Some industries have this as a criteria. In other industries, they say, hey, let him take more, but ask him to deliver distributed, do a distributed delivery, so that we don't mind. So it's like complexity is all across. But looking all these things, the good thing is, as we built a product as an industry agnostic solution, it helped us in terms of adding more tech enablers in the product, like templates, like workflows, dynamic workflows and all, which has simplified the problem statements of industries. That's the reason why probably if I have to categorize and tell which one was more complex, I think uh, that is something which I cannot tell right away. It's like, so everything is, for every industry has their own complexities and they have their own specific requirement related to procurement. So that's how it is actually.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much for so patiently answering in a great detail. Thank you. Sir, I have another question, and that is, why is procurement a tougher test for, say, digital maturity than in HR, CRM, or finance?
Right. So one of the important thing, right? Like when you look at HR, finance, in all these aspects, it's internal driven. Tech is internal driven because the adoption comes within the system. But procurement is one such space where you need external stakeholders plays a vital role. See, if you see procurement team, right? Buyer community could be of 20, 25 users, but the vendors to whom they end up interacting to, right, would be 6, 7,000 people. So if you have to get the whole enablement, right, to have them come online, start working on online, they have to look at all these 6,000, 7,000 vendors also. So that's the reason why, because that's something they are external to the organization. You can't enforce them. So you have to basically motivate them, most important. Like say if it is HR, if it is related to finance, you can roll out a policy, make it mandate, and adoption can be bought on
Right.
faster. But when you see procurement, right, 50% of their job is done by external people where you don't have a control of, right? So 50% of the activity on the product is done by people within the organization. So that's something you can bring on. But what happens, right, if those 50% stakeholders like vendors doesn't really be included into the product by them, right, they cannot deliver their job. So it becomes a redundant activity for them to do it. So that's the reason why that was very important, because see, there could be some vendors might be very crucial. See, I'll tell you one of the pharma company here in Hyderabad itself, right? So they have vendors from Afzalganj.
Right.
Okay, so they'll not have a tool. They'll not even have email box and all. Now that they've changed, but when we started earlier, it was like they don't even have. They send everything by paper. In a white paper, they'll just write what was sent and what is the price. So likewise, we have to look at them also. So if you have to include in digitization initiatives, you have to include them also. Then only the product will be successful. Those were the days when we started. That was how it used to be.
Right, right, right. I mean, come to think of it, there is another thing that we have to talk about, and this is my last point. How are the government procurement systems maturing, and what lessons they are throwing up for us to learn from or go by? Because those are, in terms of size, pretty large, and majority of them are mission critical for different sectors and different departments and for the country. So
Right.
what are the top lessons that we can draw from there, and what dynamics are changing in government procurement systems?
Sure. See, earlier, probably as I told you, right, 2016, 2017, procurement systems people are not aware of, right? So if you see, GM was introduced, right, for government procurement. That was done in 2017, 2018. So that's when they launched. Right now, it has actually matured to a greater extent. So we see a lot of people have been enrolling for it, being part of it to get, real-time updates on what's actually happening, what is coming up, what is coming their way and all. See, what it actually did is people like us, because we all have a misconception, right? Reaching out to government folks to get the order is a Herculean task. You have to bypass a lot of layers, and there are different, misconceptions, or probably some are factual too. We have to go through that cycle to, break the account there in government, right? But with this GM being introduced right now, the getting the access towards the requirements to basically showcase your interest and participate has become more flexible and more open now, right? So that's one of the fantastic thing that happened, right? And earlier, right, like, in order to break the government account, you have to do a lot of backend things, right? Now that everything has become digital, it has become more transparent, and it's like, at least, your voice is heard. Earlier, it was not the case, right? So that has built a lot of confidence and a lot of trust among people, because if you go and see, right, you have multiple opportunities. Extremely, it's like, we see a lot of, because kind of incentivization they have introduced for SMEs to go ahead and participate in procurement, requests, or whatever, procurement options they have it around, right, is something really appreciable. I think on that note, we see a lot of improvement, in this segment, and we see a lot of opportunities too, and a lot of people have also boldly going ahead and, grabbing them.
Amazing, amazing to know that. I think that throws up many opportunities,
Sure,
actually.
absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I would now request audience, in case they have any questions to ask, they can raise their hands. In the meantime, Dr. Prasad, you have any question left that you would like to touch upon? Then we'll wait for, yeah, there's already one person raising the hand. But first yourself, then we'll go to Mr. Anirudh.
Yeah. I see. As an institution, we are interested in doing something on supply chain uh, technology. There are risks and opportunities. So, would you help us to deliver some sort of a micro credential on that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Sure.
Thank you, Professor Sudhakar.
Thank you very much. So there's a lot of homework for us. We'll have to talk to Mr. Nitesh Reddy and then take it forward. Yes, fantastic. Can I request Mr. Anirudh Prakya to raise the
Yes,
question?
sir.
Yeah.
Sir, good evening. So
Good
my
evening.
question is, what frameworks or key performance indicators should we use to really quantify the business impact of digital products? Mostly when we talk of procurement, we tend to focus on cost savings, but can we also quantify in terms of something like cycle time reduction or vendor performance? Is that acceptable in the industry, or is it still in nascent stage?
That's a very good question, Anirudh. See, when we look at digitization, right, cost savings, people do quote a lot, but cost savings is something, there are two kinds of cost savings, right? Quantifiable is something through online negotiations. We have auction platforms where people claim that, we help companies save $1 million, $10 million and all. That is something product should not take the ownership of that savings, because that was product acts as an enabler, wherein the procurement team did that, right? So you can't take their success into your account. But as you rightly said,
আমাকে unmute করে দিয়েছে।
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry about
yeah.
that.
So one of the important factor under this, now the way we go up to, right? Now one of the aspect is cost saving, reducing paper, because everything is online. Now you don't need to go use paper. Turnaround time gets improved. See, if your current turnaround time of PR to PO without a digitizing tool is 5 days, now at least you can bring it down to 2 days through this tool. That's something what we strongly negotiate for. That's point one. Now, second thing, we also quantify, like say if your KPI is to buy 10 or basically fulfill 10 purchase requests per day. Now, how much is the time you end up spending per day to to what it actually takes up to when you actually implement a digitizing tool. We have a metric being qualified, which looks at all these aspects. See, one of the key indicator is vendor performance that is evaluated on OTIF. In supply chain, OTIF is one of the important criteria to be looked at, which is nothing but on time in full. Now,
Yes.
what we say is we help companies in terms of improving their OTIF rate. So there is one company, just to give an example, right? One of the largest pharmaceutical company in India, right? They had their OTIF of 68% before implementing our tool, right? We could help them go up to 93 because timely alerts and giving a timely intervention, proactive monitoring is helping them in terms of achieving a significant OTIF. So OTIFs, turnaround times, and handling number of requests even for managers, right? Like earlier, they used to take good considerable time because everything was printed, right? So they have to approve, they have to review all documents and everything. Now, what we are saying is we classify the risk and give them more insights so that you can take decision faster now. Instead of taking 6-7 hours on one request, now you can do it in 10-15 minutes. So likewise, we have a lot of criteria, a lot of KPIs, basis which we eventually, that's how we go reach out to clients in convincing them on what benefit we as a digitizing tool will bring on table.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much, Anirudh. I'll request Bhaskar Mukherjee to ask his question.
Sir, I would like to ask you, what is the metric of measuring success in digital products? Is it the top line or the bottom line?
See, when you start seeing, success of digitizing product on either top line or bottom line, then I think, digitizing tools is a long game, right? So digitization products actually give you results in long run, not an immediate, outcome you can evaluate for. See, like what happens, I'll tell you, right? See, bottom line savings is about saving costs, right? Paper, manpower, and then, the third important thing is like products like us, which does e-negotiations, right? That is how you can help companies cut down their cost, right? But what is the value proposition? So you can evaluate on bottom line. It all depends upon the product to which function, in the organization you are actually giving that digital product. That will basically, define whether it is bottom line or top line, right? If you go and try, if you ask a sales product, company, they talk about top line, right? When you talk about procurement products like us, right, we talk about bottom line, right? So it's a cost avoidance. What we try to avoid, right? It's an additional cost. What we're trying to avoid is the value proposition we bring on table. That's the bottom line savings we bring on. So each product has their own contribution, and at different stages, to different people, in the different department, it brings on different value on table. So answer to your question, it can be both bottom line or top line, but for our product, we principally say it's a bottom line savings.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Over the last 1 hour, I think we have been talking about digital procurement space and the scalability and what is the anatomy of scaling in itself is what we looked at through various use cases and some of the lived experiences over your early failure and learning about the gaps, learning about uh, how to elicit trust, and it's not the single face that runs the show, it is the system that runs the show. Some of the most fundamental aspects that you talked about was very, very interesting over the last 1 hour. Thank you, sir, for your time. And I was mentioning that when you especially talked about startups are about speed, startups are about experimentation vis-a-vis the organizations that talk about scaling. Organizations like you, enterprise products basically is about governance and stability, right? That's when I thought about Daniel Kahneman talking about system one and system two. System one is, about being speed and, based on, say, patterns, you execute on speed. Whereas system two is analytical, being slow and mature and all. But as Daniel Kahneman says, we have to choose between system one and two. Humans behave in a fluid manner for one and two, depending on the requirement. So similarly, in our running the enterprises also, the behavior of system one and system two is required. The behavior of a startup as well as the governance that is required, which is given by enterprise products to elicit trust, is required in the long run. So that's what struck me. I thought I'll just mention that. Wonderful. I think whenever a discussion like this provokes new thoughts, that determines the success of and the impact of the discussion or the conversation on our platform. I want to thank you for that specifically, for provoking so many thoughts and also giving us the leads how to go about it. And I'm sure it has benefited all the members who have joined us around the screen from various walks of life. They have their own domains that they can look at and apply some of the foundational principles that you talked about. Amazing conversation, extremely practical, most authentic, and something new we have not talked about in the past. Okay. I want to thank you on behalf of Professor Prasad and all the people who have joined. A big thank you from ICFAI, and I'll keep in touch with you. I request you to share your PPT so that we can write a summary of the session and put it on the archives so that people who have missed, they go back and learn from the text summary as well as the video that we put up. And this Q&A, the magic of the Q&A is to look at the video and for lessons that can last long, you should look at the text, how that Q&A is decoded and in a learning format it is given. So it is there on our website. So your PPT would help us prepare that kind of a summary. Dr. Ved Purishwar makes that every week for us. And I request you to email it to us. Okay.
Sure, definitely I'll do that.
So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll meet again next week with another leader at 6:30 p.m. on Friday. February 13th. And till then, keep reading more about digital procurement, how Indian founders are underestimating, overestimating, and estimating building global SaaS products. There are lots of advantages, but all of us don't seem to look at those advantages. But this space is something very interesting for us to learn it. AI washing is a very important trend that we should look at and distinguish between automation versus AI. And the AI products are supposed to be tested and looked at for what they stand for and what promises they stand for, and not allow the earlier unsold products to be reflected under the name of AI label. These are the lessons that we have. It will stay with us. We keep reading and we keep learning. Come back to WiseViews platform for session number 226 on next Friday. Till then, have a great weekend and good night.